The furious Khan spurred his horse forward. The man in the blue turban stepped slightly aside to avoid the animal. The following evening, the man in the blue turban came alone to the temple where Berke was staying. That very night, the crowd that had gathered in rebellion dispersed, their fury cooling like water poured over embers, trusting in the Khan's word. "Don't go alone," his companions had warned him. "Trusting a Khan is the same as trusting a wolf. He may still do you harm." But the man had replied, "If harm comes, let it come to me alone. The rest of you remain safe and carry our cause forward. I've done my part, I have nothing left to fear," and he went alone, refusing to be dissuaded. Berke, for his part, had already learned by then exactly who this man was. "Are you a Christian?" the Khan asked, without even offering him a seat. The Khan's demeanor had changed entirely from the day before. Gone was yesterday's visible unease and anger. His voice was calm, unwavering, as it always was. He understood, after all, that the balance of power now rested firmly in his own hands. The temple, the surrounding grounds, everything had been thoroughly secured by soldiers of the Golden Horde and the governor's own forces. Not even a single unauthorized soul could move freely now, let alone stage another uprising. "No, I am simply a man," the man in the blue turban replied. "A Muslim, then?" Berke asked, running his prayer beads through his fingers. "No. Simply a man." "Fine, be simply a man then," Berke said. Having just returned from a long journey and thoroughly exhausted, it was clear from his manner that he had little appetite for conversation. "Yesterday you said Khans are not gods. You spoke of God. Does this mean you believe God exists?" "Yes, he exists. His true name is Truth." Berke offered a faint smile at this, his thin lips pressed into a narrow line. "And where is this God of truth of yours?" "Truth exists in all things, in the sky, in the earth, in me, and in him," he said, gesturing toward the guard standing at the door with spear in hand. "And in you as well." Berke felt a sudden urge to argue. "My truth lies in my strength," he said, "and in my faith." "Then who are you, a Khan or a god?" "There has never been any god on earth but the Prophet Muhammad. I am the guardian and protector of his path, his warrior." The man in the blue turban smiled as well, revealing a row of pearl-white teeth beneath his fine mustache. He was, in truth, a striking man, and a hint of quiet mockery crossed his dark, weathered face. "If what you say is true," he said, "why did you not choose one of the stronger prophets, Jesus or Moses, over Muhammad? Since you seem content to walk paths others have laid rather than blazing your own, why not choose the strongest?" Berke's prayer beads clicked faster through his fingers. "No prophet was stronger than Muhammad," he said. "Jesus was born of God's Spirit, but Muhammad was God's own chosen messenger and sage, sent directly to earth. Moses was Muhammad's elder brother in faith, also a prophet, one before whom the sea itself parted. Jesus could raise the dead. But Muhammad, the very mountains and cliffs where he prayed, vanished, so that none would witness God's holy Son directly. Muhammad is the final prophet. None shall ever surpass him." "That may be," the man in the blue turban said with a faint smile. "Yet if Jesus were truly so strong, surely his enemies could never have nailed his hands to the cross." "You clearly haven't read the Quran or the Bible," Berke said, his prayer beads now moving with a livelier rhythm, betraying his mood. "It was not Jesus himself who was crucified, it was another man entirely." The man laughed again. "Do tell." Berke, now visibly enjoying himself, religious debate always stirred something lively in him, began. After Jesus performed his miracles on earth, the unbelievers came to regard him as a god. Fearing this, the followers of Moses sought to seize him, torturing him and nailing him to a cross. Fleeing his pursuers, Jesus took refuge in a house, and just as they closed in, he ascended into heaven. The pursuers, searching every corner, seized instead a man who bore a resemblance to Jesus, believing him to be the prophet himself, and it was he who was stoned and nailed to the cross in Jesus's place. The man in the blue turban laughed once more. So Jesus let an innocent man take his place, then. How convenient when one has that kind of power to do as one pleases. Is that also why he was known to drink wine? No, he drank it without knowing what it was, Berke said, his beads moving again. He then told another story, how Jesus, traveling to Jerusalem, grew thirsty and entered a vineyard in search of water. He found a clay jar and drank from it, only to find the water bitter. When he asked why, the jar itself answered, for even lifeless things spoke to Jesus, explaining that among the coins its owner had used to purchase it was a single copper coin earned from selling a stolen needle, and that this small theft had tainted the water within. See, Berke said, how even the smallest sin, stealing a mere needle, became a grave transgression. This is precisely why Muhammad instructed his followers to do no harm to one another, to abstain from wine, to never steal, and for the wealthy to show mercy to the poor and never commit injustice, as written in the 5th surah of the Quran. So that explains your agreement to our requests yesterday, the man in the blue turban said. You've proven yourself a true follower of Muhammad's path. The prayer beads stopped abruptly. No. I made you no promise whatsoever, Berke said. What? So many people stood as witnesses. What people? Do you mean yesterday's crowd? They are not people, they are slaves, craftsmen. Berke's body trembled suddenly, the first signs of his notorious fits of rage beginning to surface. And besides, the Quran itself states that a promise extracted through force and intimidation is no true promise at all. Ah, is that so? Then you at least admit you were afraid that there exists a people capable of humbling even someone like you. I suspected you might go back on your word today. But I came to remind you that the very people who frightened you yesterday still exist and remain capable of frightening you still, if not through words, then through force. Berke struck his silver bell. The sound, ordinarily a gentle chime, filled the room this time with something ominous and threatening. Salimjari, commander of the personal guard, entrusted with the Khan's safety, entered. Berke gestured toward the man in the blue turban. This man organized yesterday's unrest and attempted to turn the craftsmen against the Golden Horde. I sentence him to death, he said. Killing may not take place within the temple grounds. Take him beyond the city walls where no one will see and execute him there. And bring me the snuff box he carries at his belt as a memento of today's conversation. Without a word, Salimjari drew his sword and led the man in the blue turban outside. The night was pitch black. Salimjari and a group of guardsmen led the man toward the edge of the city. At one point, he sent his men back, choosing to continue alone with his prisoner. Why go through all this trouble, Salimjari? The man in the blue turban asked at last. Couldn't you have simply killed me among the other prisoners? You're a well-known scholar, Tamdam. If we'd killed you there, someone might have noticed, and word would spread. The Khan wants your disappearance to remain a mystery, no trace of where you went or how you died. That's why we've brought you out beyond the city. That makes sense, Tamdam said, and after a pause added, who would have imagined that two young disciples of Muhammad Tarabi would one day turn on each other like this? Instead of answering, Salimjari asked, where have you been all this time? I fled to Baghdad. But the Mongols reached there too. And the grudge I carried here never let me rest, so I returned. You studied and became a scholar of Islamic law. I fled to the Kipchak steppe, from a simple herdsman to a centurion, and now commander of the Khan's own personal guard. Well earned, then. How many of our own people have you killed along the way? Me. No, don't think that of me. My hands remain clean, for now. Whose blood will stain them in the end? That's the real question. They reached the edge of the forest. I go no further, Salimjari said suddenly. This is far enough, farewell. Take this, you'll need it. Run as far as you can, if you're able. I thought you thought I'd become a wolf who devours his own kind. No, Tamdam. I could never do that to you. The blood of countless Kipchaks and Aighurs already stains the hands of Genghis Khan's line. We cannot afford to add to it. Farewell, Salimjari said, turning to leave. Wait, Tamdam called. At least take my snuff box to your Khan, so he doesn't doubt you've carried out his order. A fine Kipchak craftsman in Baghdad made it. It was a wonderful gift, but I have no choice now but to give it to your Khan. Salimjari turned back. The two men embraced briefly before parting. Tamdam disappeared into the thick forest. Salimjari, looking down at the ornately carved snuff box under the moonlight, as though reading a final message sent from a Kipchak craftsman in distant Baghdad to his homeland, let out a quiet sigh before hurrying back the way he'd come. If you enjoy epic historical stories of the Mongol Empire and the Golden Horde, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more content.